I'm actually going to
Yes.
renew my passport this month. So yeah,
Please
super excited.
come. Please
Yes.
come.
I can't believe it's expiring already. 10 years has gone by so fast.
100%. I just recorded it for us.
Yeah, you just said 10 years, and that actually just make me think, like, do I need to do mine sometimes soon?
Yeah,
Goodness, you gotta look
I
at
have one
that.
more year, and I love to travel, so I've just got to remember to do it.
Yeah.
Yes. Are we live right now? Okay.
If you need
Shoot.
to do something, it's okay.
Okay, I have to do one thing so you don't hear my dog hitting his bowl in the background.
Okay. No worries. We are all human. So whoever's watching, welcome everyone. So we are here, just regular people coming together. We're all co-authors, and you'll hear about each and every one of us in a second. But we're going to be starting in 1 minute once Sarah comes back, and then we'll start the show. Whoever is watching, thank you for joining. Okay. But hopefully everyone how's the weather wherever anyone is? Joseph.
It's sunny today. It started out with thunderstorms. We've got a patch of store. It's spring, so it was about 75 today. It's going to be 80, I think, tomorrow. Then it's going to drop down to 69, and then we're going to get we get tornadoes and stuff here. I'm originally from New York, so that's the one thing I had to get used to with these tornado warnings and watches. Um, but it's
Yeah,
part of our reality.
the up and down of weather. How's the weather, Kelly, where you are?
Yeah, I was hit and mix, some rain and then some sun. So yeah,
And
spring.
Sarah, spring and on and off. Yeah, same here. Rain, it was sunny, and then now it's cold and then Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, DC is sunny. If you can't tell, the sun is in my face.
It's making
Um,
your face so beautiful.
it was
It is
70
already
on
beautiful,
Monday.
but the sun is amazing. The
Um,
natural.
yeah, and we're ready for cherry blossom soon. So,
Mhm.
So
yeah,
quick.
yeah,
And then
they're
Lisa.
budding.
Oh,
Same as
wow.
Sarah. I'm in her area. So
Oh, right. Yeah, in the same area. Okay, we are all here. Thank you. So we are called this particular podcast or just show is called Where Are They Now? The Faces of Foster Care. So we are all co-authors to the amazing vision or visionary of Miss Lisa. And so I'm gonna just show the book so everyone who knows where we or what we're talking about. So this is the book that we all were featured in. I just happen to be on the face of it, but everyone's voice is pictured in the book, which you can find on Barnes and Nobles or Amazon or any bookstore nearest you. But this is currently Barnes and Noble, so we'll put the link in the comments so you'll know what we're talking about. But right now, we're going to just start by asking each person to share an introduction, and as well as myself, your name, how long you were in foster care, where are you now? So about your achievements, how it felt once the book was published. So we're going to start with Sarah, Kelly, Joseph, myself, and then we'll ask Lisa her whole vision of why she started this process.
All
Sarah,
right.
take it away. Yeah.
I will do my spiel. I'm Sarah Lucas. I was in foster care for about 7 years. I am currently living in DC, but originally from New York, Western New York, I guess you would call it. And I currently work for the US Department of Health and Human Services, and I work in a particular office within the Administration for Children and Families called the Office of Refugee Resettlement, where I am pretty much living my dream working with immigrant populations, specifically vulnerable children. When the book was published, I think I still remember sitting on a bench being interviewed for the book. But then when it was published, I remember kind of being excited, getting it, getting my hard copy of it. And it still sits on my bookshelf to this day. So very excited. I was excited when it was published. It is actually something that I forget quite often, and I never tell people. It's like one of those fun facts that you can totally like brag about, but I always
Hmm.
forget. So, and then I will pass the torch on to the next person in line. Oh, sorry, I'm on my phone.
Excellent. No worries. Perfect. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Yeah, my name's Kelly from Kansas. I was born and raised there. I spent 5 years in the foster care system. Those years were my teenage years, so I did end up aging out of care. Earned my master's in social work, began my career on Capitol Hill, working with the Senate Finance Committee, working on foster care and adoption policy, also with the Congressional Coalition, educating members of Congress regarding foster care, child welfare matters, all of that. Then I went on back to Kansas and worked in sort of the grassroots case management, working with children and families in reintegration. And then also as a advocate, and during the book when it was published, I worked as a social worker, and then also an advocate for sex trafficking victims, working with the I just drew a blank, the Child Missing Unit, as well as the Child Advocacy Center within Kansas. At some point, I needed a bit of a break, call it burnout, call it stress, call it just girl needed a break. So decided to take a step back from child welfare. My husband and I moved abroad. My husband is German and he lived here and just brought me here and started a whole new life. It's been it was challenging at first, but been a bit of a blessing because I got to just experience a different life, you know? So now I do some consulting on the side, and then I also do some
Mm.
like social media marketing kind of stuff. Dabble in some writing myself, and yeah. So yeah, living in Switzerland, spent 3 years in Switzerland, went to Hong Kong for 3 years, now back in Switzerland. And yeah, just living life and enjoying life. So when the book came out, I yeah, just felt excited and honored to play a part in this, as well as just educating the public on foster care. So just feel honored to be part of it. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Joseph, and then I'll go, and then Nathan. We're just doing the intros, and then we'll pass it to Miss Lisa.
Hi, I am Joe. I am the proud father of 10, 8 boys legally adopted from the foster care system, 2 moral adoptions. I grew up in the foster care system for 21 years. So from birth to aging out, I was in the system the entire time. But since then, I have, and more recently, I'm a practicing therapist. So I see a lot of families who are looking to adopt young people from the foster care system in particular. And I had a long career as a school counselor, public school system in New York, which is where I'm from, and retired and thought I was going to be just on a beach somewhere. And that didn't work out. So part of half of my kids actually came after I retired.
Wow.
And I am now an empty nester. Um, I write, I do a lot of advocacy for foster care and adoption from foster care. We seem to get a lot of attention. So, there are tons of videos out there. I did write a book. It's The Spirit of Christmas. It's just a holiday book. It's not particularly about foster care. And I create a lot of content. So right now, I'm working on a campaign which I'm calling Songs of a Journey for Foster Care Awareness Month, which is going to be in May. And that's I guess I can't go through all the achievements, but that's enough to give you an idea. And since the book came out, there was media coverage before and media coverage after. So I don't know. I wasn't really nervous about it. I wanted to do it, and I'm often ready to just talk about to anybody who will listen about the emotions of foster care and adoption. I'm really big on identity formation. So, and how that's impacted by our experiences. And so that's my big theme this year. I'm glad to be part of this group, of course. And I'm also just honored, really, to see such the achievements. And I wish that everybody would see that foster care doesn't define who we are, and that there is hope at the end of the tunnel, especially for kids who are in foster care now. And so I like to be sort of a beacon of hope for them.
Thank you for sharing. I'll go next. So my name is Felicia Fort. I was in foster care from age 8 to aging out, which is 21. So I was able to go to college and then age out right after college. So 13 years about. And where am I now? I am a learning and development coach for Amazon, and I am a adjunct professor for Trinity Washington University, where I've been a professor for 10 years. Um, I am also an advocate, mentor, an author. A lot of achievements that you don't boast about yourself until people remind you, like, do you know who you are? A Christian, a believer, and a person who loves family and just strives on forgiveness. And I have amazing sisters and a mother, a father who passed, but family, cousins, people that love on me and I love on them. And when the book came out, so the book came out in 2017, right? If I'm not mistaken, something. Lisa would talk
20,
about it.
2018, I
2018.
guess.
And I didn't tell anyone because it's about foster care. And that was a story that I didn't want no one to know about me. So my mother just found out that I was on a book cover, like a book outside of the book I wrote. So I wrote a book on mentorship, and that's the only book that people think I'm in or that I wrote. But this book that we shared, and we're going to share it again, is a book that I didn't want people to know that side because I didn't know how to, express it because I didn't see other people like me sharing that they were in foster care. And it wasn't comfortable to talk about right away. So now I am just connecting with you all and reconnecting with the book. I literally just picked up the book last year and I was like, I'm just going to read this. I never read it. I just wrote it through, got the copy from Miss Lisa and kind of just put it on the bookshelf, but never opened it. And then I was like, it's time to start talking about this other side of me that I hide away and act like it's history, but it is a part of me. And it's a great rainbow now because the family's good, sisters are amazing, we're tight, mother's healed and whole and amazing. And so it's like, this is time to kind of bring the light to it. So I just want to say thank you to you all because after reading, and I was like, wow, I thought I had a struggle, but we all had an amazing struggle. So if you want to know about my story or any of the stories, read the book. But let's go to Nathan and then we'll go to Miss Lisa.
Hello, everybody. I am so grateful to be a part of this opportunity to connect with everybody. I must admit that the days of work are so busy for all of us, right? And so I'm always having to multitask. But I am Nathaniel Brown, and I am connected with the book because it started with an Atlanta Journal-Constitution article about what it meant to be in the foster care system based on the work that I was doing with college students at a 2-year college, a technical college at that. And so it started out for me in that way. Someone engaged with me from an advising standpoint and told someone else. And that person said, oh, I wonder how he got involved into this kind of work and why he's so passionate and interested in the work. And it became an actual article. And at that time, in 2016, I was working on my PhD in counselor education and supervision. And because of that, what ended up happening is that Lisa reached out to me directly and asked if we could connect and get together and talk about it because she apparently learned about the article as well. And so that's kind of what happened for me. I will say that it's been a journey. And I think when you're in the middle of your journey, in terms of how things are going for you, you can find something meaningful in that journey. And I think that's what ended up happening for me, that someone reached out to me to say, I saw this and read about you, and I want to know more. And I think that's what probably encouraged me to participate. So I was preparing to participate in my first social work conference in 2016, a national conference. And that's how I met Miss Lisa. And we had, I think, a great time talking and sharing. And these days, particularly what I'm doing is I did graduate, and that's what that article was about, is I actually did graduate. And so it was an article called From Foster Care to PhD Candidate. And that was in 2016. And it really did well for me to keep my spirits up, because working on an academic work can be very tiring. And so you have to think about why you're doing it, right? And so I think for me, I was very happy to get through that process. I graduated from the University of Georgia in 2017, actually in December of 2017. I secured my first academic appointment at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, where I became a professional mental health counselor educator. And then I stayed there for 3 years. And then after COVID, or in the midst of COVID, decided to come back to the East Coast. And now I'm at Johns Hopkins University as an assistant professor of clinical mental health counseling, also clinical director of field experience placement. And then I'm a therapist with LifeStance Health Incorporated in Gresham, Oregon. So I'm able to do telemental health work because I'm licensed there at the associate level. I'm licensed here at the master's level, and then I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Georgia. So it's a lot to think about, but I'm very grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you. So now we're going to hear from the author of this book that you see on the screen, Faces of Foster Care, Messages of Hope, Hurt, and Truth. And we're just going to hear why she came up with the book, how many authors in the whole book, and anything else you would like to share.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I think hearing everyone talk, I think is just very clear why this book is so interesting. Yes, I am the author, I guess, more like an editor. I mean, the messages are yours and others. There are 20 people included. And just very quickly, why I thought of the idea. I was mentoring teens in foster care through the DC Family and Youth Initiative. And this was probably started about 10 years ago, and I really knew nothing about foster care, honestly. And I was just, I mean, they were so fascinating, just interesting kids, and some amazing stories. And I thought, well, I'm going to interview people. I want people to learn about this, and your stories are amazing, and I'm so glad that you came here tonight and told us how you're doing. I do hope that people read the book. It's a timeless book. You could have read it in 2018. People can read it today and still learn about foster care, learn about, yes, some of it is very sad, but it also gives hope. And, you all show that. And so, it's not about me, so I don't want to say too much here. You all are the interesting piece. But thank you so much for doing this, to all of you, and especially Felicia. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, we appreciate you for giving us a platform to express and share our past. And now we get to share our future. So let's go into some questions. So first question, anyone can answer first. Everyone does not have to answer every question. And like I said, I'm also a panelist, so I will also answer the questions as well. So first question, since the book's release, have there been any surprising triumphs or experiences that helped or changed your perspective on life and foster care? Who would like to go throw it out there? Just come off mute. Once the book's been released, has there been any surprising triumphs, like things just got chaotic, or experiences that change your perspective on life and foster care once the book came out? Yes, Sarah.
Yeah, I'll share before my dog starts barking. So I think so. I actually couldn't remember when the book came out. So,
So
um,
2018, the book came out.
yeah. So I, one of the biggest triumphs, and I mentioned it in my kind of intro, is being a staff member at HHS and doing the work that I do. I didn't become a federal staff until 2020. And it coincided with me kind of being in grad school for social work. And I believe, Lisa, when you interviewed me, I said something about I don't think I'd ever be a social worker.
Yeah.
I am. And I'm just, the thing is that I started in 2019 in grad school. And then, a year later I was in my internship going to my first home visit, and it was the same day that the world kind of shut off, right? It was March 20th or March 15th, 2020. And I was like, am I supposed to go? Am I not? I don't know what I'm doing. And fast forward another year from there, I became a federal staff, or I was a federal staff. And then we had a huge influx of Afghan refugees that came. And I actually was the site lead at Quantico for HHS. And it was probably like one of the, I don't ever really talk about it. But it is probably one of the biggest accomplishments I ever kind of achieved. And so, just going back and seeing all these different, opportunities I've had over the last several years. I also bought a house. So there's just so many great kind of achievements I've had in my life since the book came out. Um, I think that working within the Administration for Children and Families, there's always a tie back to that connection to foster care and being in foster care. And I have always maintained a voice within the work that I do. So I sat on working groups that tried to push forward increasing foster homes for unaccompanied children within the network instead of having them in congregate care settings. So there's a lot of stuff I've done along the way that kind of is a touch point to my past. And I don't know why I never plugged the book. I'm just, as I'm saying this now, I'm realizing I should have mentioned. I think I have like 2 or 3 times, but it's like over the last, 6 or 7 years. So, but yeah, I just could never have imagined what I've achieved, even at the time that I was being interviewed for this book. So, yeah. So I think that answered your question.
Yes, perfect. I
Awesome.
can jump in as well. Since the book's release, I was actually on the Hillary campaign because her main campaign was about foster care because Hillary Clinton also was in foster care. And so I joined. This is when I was like a part of like the foster care. I found other people in DC who was advocating foster care and really using their voices. So I jumped in with them to lobby for Hillary Clinton um, around Capitol Hill, for her campaign, and did a couple commercials to kind of push her campaign. So that's when I actually started a little earlier, but then later, like really being vocal. Like I actually can speak about foster care without crying. And that's when I was like, even though there was the commercial for Hillary Clinton that we did, and they asked a question, I just busted out crying. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. She may not win. And then of course when Obama ran against her, I was like, she don't need to win anyway because Obama's running. But it changed because also after the book, that's when my mom, she kind of spiraled and went into a whole thing of and then she just said, this is my time to go in. This is the time I'm gonna get my life together. So it was right after the book's released, 2018, 2019. She went in and then she was like, I'm not coming out of this program this time. And that like was a great experience, especially since it was right after the book. I started talking about foster care a little more. And then it was like, okay, this may be the time where she's like gonna get her life together for herself. So it was a beautiful rainbow at the end. So that's me. Anyone else want to answer this question? Or we can go to the next one.
I will say, I think that one of the things that has stood out for me was recognizing the power of voices. I was able to take the book once it came out and make it a part of my class. I was able to create an elective course about how to work with individuals that have foster care histories or narratives in clinical mental health counseling. And I think that was something I was not prepared for. I wasn't sure how that would go over for students to learn more about their professor as having a background, but being that open about it was not only something that worked for clinical mental health counseling students, but also marriage couples and family students. Students that were doing art therapy, students that are doing school psychology. I was shocked when other programs were interested in their students taking that course. And so I not only had a textbook for the class, but I assigned this book. So every student had to buy this book in taking that class. And then when I taught as a visiting assistant professor at um, a university in um, Tacoma, Washington, that was another surprise. I created an elective there as well, and they also had to buy the book. So I was just pleasantly surprised that people were open to me adding that to the list, and it's in the syllabus. And so it's kind of nice to be able to see that people can read the narratives of other people's lives in which they might come in contact with at some point for mental health counseling.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So, question two, anyone can answer, and it doesn't have to be everyone. How has sharing your story impacted conversations with family and friends on this topic or anything that you went through? How has it been sharing? Any meaningful discussions that stood out? Any aha moments that you'd like to share?
I am passionate about sharing my story. Um, I was a coach for a billion years, and I went to a running camp, and I was going up to the camp to do weight training for runners. And I got there, and there was this kerfuffle going on. Everybody was upset. The owner of the camp was on the phone, and it had so happened that there was a young man there who was in foster care, and his biological father had called the camp and was threatening to sue. He was there for all the reasons he should have been there, and it was all clear. I went back to my barrack, ripped up my program, and I created a speech for the camp. That night I was gonna, we were doing everybody in the camp, and I have a history. I'm an NCAA All-American twice and captain the team, blah blah blah. So everybody there didn't know anything about this of me, and I shared the story, and for this young man, because his face, like, he didn't want anybody to know he was in foster care, and he had just been outed in such a big way, and I felt awful for him. I mean, if I think about it, that's how I was so sad, that I went and I told my story to 125 runners who were looking at me as something, as a runner. They didn't know anything about me. They didn't know anything about foster care, and I haven't stopped. So right now I have a podcast called Out of the Starting Blocks and Into the Race, which is going to be a journey of my experiences of foster care and an examination of those things that continue to be part of the foster care system. And I create lots of content for the internet. I create these animated videos, really messages of hope, and sometimes I call them gifts to mankind. But the amount of people that have no experience in foster care are so interested. They're interested in following it, interested in learning it, and for good, bad, or indifferent, I'm using my story as an example that feelings are the same. There's no should be no blame, and of course, hope for those kids that are going through the foster care system. And I hope, only hope, that people like and think about the content enough to maybe consider adoption themselves, fostering, or at least supporting agencies that try to help kids get out of the foster care system.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next question. And because you led with that, what heartfelt advice would you give a young person currently navigating through the foster care system? So it may be people wanting to be foster parents in the future, or just people who are actually navigating through the system. Any advice, resources that you recommend, personal anecdotes that someone told you that kind of got you through, anything that anyone would like to share? Kelly, anything from you? I'm put you on the spot because
I
we're
know,
in the
I
same
know.
time
That's
zone.
pressure. Yeah, no, I think just I had something to share on the last question, but I'll answer your
No, you
question.
can still answer the last and come to the
Okay,
focus
well,
up
the
to you.
last question, sorry, my brain just did a little buzz. With the last question, I think for me, I grew up knowing I'd share my story, and it weirdly just unfolded in a way that I began to share my story after aging out, beginning my career in social work. I it's so weird to explain how it happened, but within the state that I was in, turned into this sort of newspaper article, then turned into this TV appearance thing, and then conferences and sharing my story, public speaking. I worked with my twin sister doing this, and while there was a lot of friction and we had to heal so much together because we're sharing our stories and had different perspectives and, wild things, it brought us together stronger, which was amazing. So I wanted to, I guess, share that. But the advice for young people, I think for a lot of us, we can get into this like independent attitude, don't need nobody sort of helping me kind of thing. And I feel like we truly need to kind of try to step out of that kind of embodied personality, I guess you could say, and lean on the people who are showing love to you, who are showing up every day for you, who are asking how you are. Like, lean in those people. Like, these people do care about you. It may feel not like that because it may not feel like blood relation or whatever, but lean in the people who are showing up for you and know that they care about you, I think is a big piece. And try not to burn those bridges or tear those down for the sake of trying to be independent and strong and pushing people away kind of thing is what I would say.
I love that. And any others, like when it comes to those who are in our shoe, they aged out, but they just don't like to talk about it. Any advice for them? Like, how long did it take you to start talking about it? And this for anyone. And is it healing when you talk about it? Does it just bring fear and anger? And if it does, how do you overcome that? But if it doesn't, how do you actually encourage someone to kind of talk about their story as well, that went through it, had a bad experience or a great experience? How do you get them to talk about it?
I think if you're asking me personally, I would definitely say that I wouldn't put pressure on people to share their story if they don't want to. If it's something that they really desire and want to, then they should. But I think I think a lot of us have experienced people asking way too many damn personal questions within the system, and they're trying to pry and understand what happened to you without like really caring about you, and that can feel a lot. That can feel like crap. But if it's something that they desire to be a public speaker to share their story, I think that they should definitely start doing that, whether that's through social media or connecting with friends or working with their social workers. Sometimes social workers will have connections to do things as a person in the system. I always forget what they're called, but like advocacy groups and whatnot, if they're interested in that. So, yeah.
I
Thank
want
you.
to piggyback on that. And y- people often, kids and that are in the system often ask me, how do I do what I do? And I say, I was built to do this. It is not a requirement for you to do the same. And we have to respect the individual differences and the pain and the suffering and the trauma it manifests itself differently in other people. The message I like to have kids leave with is just for them to remember that somebody cried before them, somebody suffered before them, somebody struggled before them. But the most important thing that I need them to remember is somebody survived before you, and you can do the same. And I think it's very important for us to that just recognizes and gives validation to the way they're feeling, um, and helps them understand that they're not so alone.
Mm. Sarah, anything from you? That was great.
I think because we were talking, heard kind of like sharing your story and how it can be hard sometimes. And I think I always found it easy to share my story. I tend to be an open book, but one of the things that I never kind of pieced together was it, I ended up sharing my story in different ways. So like having to talk about my student loan debt, which is something that I'm still kind of like triggered by and hurt by, because of how it's tied to my time in foster care. So there's always things that might be like that triggers you, and you end up sharing your story in a different way. So I think being mindful of that. I always have this thing where it's about food, right? Like, and this is a big topic of conversation in the work that I do. Um, and so anytime it's like talking about food scarcity or like, oh, I got to go grocery shopping. Why do I have an empty refrigerator? There's all these little things that are kind of occurring in your life that are touch points to your past. And so just being mindful of that and having grace. I do think that it's not a requirement to share your story. I think if you are asked to do it, make sure you are fairly compensated for it, because you are an expert and you should be treated that way in any arena in which you step into, when you're sharing your story on a national or even local platform. So um, that's a big thing. Is you're a lived experienced expert, and you should be fairly compensated for it as well. And that's something kind of new. It's a new age kind of concept these days, but it should have always been a thing, even when we were, first doing it ourselves. How many years ago now? I feel like it's a long time. So we're getting old.
Thanks for
Yes.
sharing that. Nathan, we're closing soon, so you want to add anything?
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to say that I agree with Sarah, also in that it is our story to tell, and it's one that doesn't require that you tell it, but also I like the idea of being able to create a family of choice, that we're not limited to the challenges that came from our biological or blood family. And I do believe that when you can create your own narrative, uh, that is a way of saying that you can go above and beyond the blood or biological family. And I think for me, it's about that empowerment, is recognizing just because things didn't work out so well for my biological family doesn't mean that I can't create one for myself. It also means that as I continue to learn about who I am as a person in my own identity development, that there could be relationships from those past family experiences that could be something new later. So I don't know that it's always final for me personally, but I also think that for myself, that mental health counseling was very helpful for me. And I think that recognizing that professional mental health counseling, uh, it's not a plug per se, but it's to say someone who is not judging you, someone who is not pointing out, someone that is open to just giving you the space and the platform to just talk about what it made you think about, what it made you feel, how it made you act. And I think over time, for me, it's helped me to make sense of things. It helped me to not blame myself for something that I could not control. And so for me, I've always needed a combination of the mental health services, a combination of education, a combination of new connections that help me to see what other families could look like in a positive light, and also what it means to embrace all the pieces that make me who I am. And I think that's helpful for a lot of people.
Amazing. Thank you, Nathan. Okay, everyone, that is the segment of Where Are They Now? Faces, the faces of foster care. Again, this is the author over here, wherever she is on your screen, but her name is Lisa. Anything you want to say before we close?
I just want to thank you all for being on here. And what Sarah just mentioned made me remember that all profits from the book do go to the DC Family and Youth Initiative. It came out in 2018 and had some sales for a couple of years. It's been a little slower since then, but if it picks back up, all the profits do go to a very, very good organization in DC that helps and mentors kids in foster care. But thank you all again for being here. It was great to see all of you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you those for watching. Hopefully you learned something, but May is considered, it is considered National Foster Care Awareness Month. This is actually a thing. So in May, learn something, speak to someone just for you to pick up your awareness on foster care. But thank you, everyone, and have a great night, everyone. Thank you
You
again
too.
for joining.
Bye.